You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Welcome back to RBLR Lightning. My name is Kid Ricker. Alongside me, Matt Gannon, Joe Zamataro. Guys, welcome back to the show. We've got a lot of Lightning hockey to talk about. Guys, we are on video. We are officially on video. We've been doing this as just a regular podcast for the longest time, but we are officially announcing that we are on video on YouTube. So if you guys want to check out you get the full experience of the RBLR Lightning podcast, be sure to head over to the YouTube channel and like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos just like this one. Be sure to check that out. It should be a lot of fun doing video now. So you guys get to see our beautiful faces. I mean, I know everybody wants to do that, right? But guys,
the new highlight of the show.
Matt, how you doing today?
I'm great. You know, now that I'm the centerpiece on this video as well, you know, I've got you guys flanking me. Does that make me the rightful center of this line?
Carry the team, buddy.
Yeah, it does. It chose the right winger on the left winger. Who's the goaltender, though?
Eureka, of course.
Eureka's the goaltender. There you go.
Our producer, Eureka, holding it down. Yep.
Joe, how about yourself? How you doing today, my friend?
Doing well. Survived the final Gasparilla weekend of the season, as well as the whole week worth of games, and looking forward to digging in. How about you?
I'm doing good. You had a pretty interesting week of hockey that we get into and talk about. I enjoyed the Super Bowl. It was a fun one there, and now all the attention ready to go on hockey as we get set for the second half of the season. That big push that a lot of teams make to try to get ready for the postseason. So I'm excited to jump right into it and get into things. And with that said, let's give you guys an update on some of the news and roster updates. And we'll start with that. Nick Paul, he is our only update for you guys right now as he's missed the last 2 games, but he is practicing with the team. It was said that he was maybe going to play in the last game, but he ended up not going. He's at Colorado right now and taking warm-ups, and he's expected to start in the next game. So Nick Paul did miss a couple of games there, but should be back very, very soon. So good news there on the Nick Paul front. But let's talk about some of these games and look at how things went down for the Bolts. And things didn't get off to a great start for the Lightning this week. And I love how Matt put it on our show rundown. I have to say this for you guys at home because you guys can't see this. He just wrote, let's not talk about it for this first game. And I mean, that's pretty much sums it up, right? The Lightning lose to the Florida Panthers by a final score of 7-1. It just wasn't good. I mean, there wasn't, I don't think, any positives to talk about in this game. The Lightning coming back from the break, they've struggled on these kind of situations, and I think things just didn't go well whatsoever. I mean, they were good in the faceoff circle, 53% there, but 0 for 2 on the power play. They gave up 1 power play goal out of the 2 penalties that they went off kill. They had 33 shots on goal, but the Panthers had 49. They were a lot more controlling of the puck. Everything felt like it was going the Panthers' way very quickly, even though at the end of the first, it was only 1-0. It was a close game until that second period where things really started to get away there. Guys, your thoughts on this tough game for the Bolts to start off the week?
Well, go ahead, by all means.
Okay, I think last week I said, you know, after you told us about the stat about the Lightning's record after the All-Star break, I said this game is going to be a coin flip. I thought it was going to be close regardless. Boy, I was wrong. This was a shellacking, and uncharacteristically so. You brought this up. They let the game get away from them. You know, it's one thing if you just, you know, you have a bad first period and you're playing catch up the whole night, but they, you know, escaped relatively easily, you know, down 1 goal that's not at all, you know, insurmountable. And then they just kept on losing momentum. They had no pressure. It just got away from them in a very uncharacteristic like manner.
And I mean that I've said in the past that a little break's good to get some healing time in, a little bit of rest and relaxation for the guys to bring them back to 100%. But they always get off to really slow starts after a break, and they went up against one guy in particular that has been extremely hot, which is Matthew Tkachuk, coming off that all-star performance. And I feel like Matt here, where I'm praising a player of another team, but he showed up, he put out, and he was a force to be reckoned with. And the Lightning they just weren't ready to come against a team that was not only playing with some swagger, but they're playing with desperation too, because they're on the outside looking in for the playoffs and really needed to secure this victory. Where for the Lightning, it's almost like they're just kind of dipping their toes into the pool, getting back into the swing of things.
I gotta ask the both of you. After this loss, were either of you guys concerned? I mean, to me, hands down, this was the worst loss of the year so far. I have to admit, I was like, man, can this team still play with the big boys? I mean, even if they're getting beat down like this against the Panthers, I wasn't, sell the team, trade everybody type of reaction. But I was like, man, it threw a little bit of doubt in my mind, but it would not be a Tampa Bay Lightning season if I didn't doubt them and have them prove me wrong. So.
I didn't have that whatsoever, because I remember I said this on the last podcast, and you guys just brought it up too, that they were 4-5-1 in their last couple of games after those long stretches. They've historically not been good in those games. And listen, in an 82 game season, you're going to have games where things just go terribly wrong, and you have to burn the tapes, throw them out into the ocean, and just move on. And that was what this game was to me. They later proved that it really wasn't that big of a deal. They got much better as the week went on, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But these things happen. It was a rough game for the Bolts, and the important thing is, how do you bounce back?
And I mean, that's one thing too that you saw, is because of the way the schedule is, they left Vasilevsky in for all 7 goals, which, if I'm not mistaken, ties a career high of goals allowed in a single game by him, where that kind of lets me know too that they weren't super worried about it. They're gonna, let the 60 minutes run out and then get back to business for the next game. Otherwise, if you're really trying to scramble for points, or you're concerned about the mentality of the team, you pull your goaltender to not only give him a rest, but to shake up everyone on the bench. We didn't see that, and I kind of like Matt's comment in our podcast notes here. Let's not talk about it.
Yeah,
Hey.
we don't have to delve too deep into it. It wasn't even the biggest story, from that game. Not even just the beatdown. I think you guys have already may have forgotten about the beatdown on the rat, the jerseying.
No, I did not forget about that. I did not. And for those who may not know what we're talking about, there was a video that surfaced of a Lightning fan kind of beating up on the Florida Panthers mascot. He was pulling over his jersey over his head and then kind of jumping around, yelling out "Go Bolts!" And this is, of course, in the middle of them getting killed. Guys, don't be like that. Don't be like that. I don't know about how you guys felt about this, but I felt it was like a really bad look, and I thought it was really low and lame and just a bad move by I mean, come on. What are you doing? Beating up on a mascot? I mean, what are we doing here?
I mean, they're still not as bad as Rangers fans, actually punching people after they lose. So, we're not the worst.
Where was security? That's what I want to know. I cannot believe security did not do anything about that situation, but that's neither here nor there. I do want to say this, though. I know a lot of Panthers fans are really excited. They got a big win against the Lightning. Still on you guys. We've won the last 2 out of 3 in this series this year. And we've won a lot more games than you guys have. So just throwing that out there. But let's get off of this game, because it was a tough one for the Lightning, and they needed to try and rebound, and they looked to do that against the San Jose Sharks, who have not had a great season, except unless you're Erik Karlsson, who has been unbelievable this year. And it looked like the Lightning were going to get to that rebound they wanted with Ross Colton just dominating early in that first period. He got an early 1-0 lead for the Lightning, and then it was a little bit of back and forth. came back and tied it. And then Braden Point happened. He picks up 2 more goals in just the right place, right time. The Sharks end up getting within 1. There's a goal that's called back, or Steven Stamkos scores, but it's offsides. A big momentum killer there for the Lightning. And then the Sharks eventually tie it in the 3rd, and they win it in overtime. So a kind of a devastating loss for the Lightning here, but they do lose in overtime. And I know people hate that, and it's a loss is still a loss, but that's actually a big deal for the Lightning, and we'll get to this more of where they sit in the standings after we finish these game recaps. This is only the 2nd game that they have lost in extra time, and those points end up meaning a lot more, I think, than people realize towards the end of the season. So basically what I'm saying is, if they had to lose this game, I'm glad it was in overtime and not in the last second of the 3rd period. At least they did get a point out of it. But guys, a frustrating game when you had a 4-2 lead that ended up turning into a 3-2 lead after a called back goal. And then on that game tying goal, the shot went off of Belmare's stick and just broke it and went up in the air in the back of the net. Just some kind of weird plays. And it felt like the Lightning almost got screwed by the hockey gods. I don't know what you guys think about this game. So
that is the perfect way of putting it. I was going to just call it straight puck luck. The Lightning had a great bounce back performance after the Florida game. And I'm pretty sure there was at one point I was saying that, Kuch is playing pissed and he's playing hard. And that's a good thing when you see Kucherov playing with that determination. But they just couldn't put the puck in the net. I could have, I'd have put money that Point was going to get a hat trick that game. He hit 2 posts after he already had 2 goals. He had a few other chances. I think he missed the side of the net on one of them as well. And he went from being able to score 2 within, 7 minutes of game time to not being able to put the puck past again, despite having a lot of chances. The Lightning played really well. They just didn't come up with the win. A couple of small mistakes ended up allowing the Sharks to stay in the game. And then they were fighting. They were battling. The Sharks were battling. And unfortunately, that homestand win streak came to an end, and it turned into a point streak.
I think, to me, the biggest killer from this game was the power play. The Lightning could not convert. I think they were 1 for 6, I believe.
1 for 6, correct.
I mean, that's crazy. And not even did they just not convert on, at least they got 1, but they also didn't look the greatest while on the power play. I just thought they seemed a little lazy. I thought, the effort was there through most of the game, but the power play didn't seem like it was gelling very well. I'm not going to hang my hat on that. Of course, you're not going to score on every single power play. There's a reason why the league average is 20%, but still 1 for 6. That's kind of irritating in a way. But
well, I do want to ask you this, Matt, since you're talking about it. I thought the power play actually looked decent. I mean, they weren't great. Obviously, when you go 1 for 6, that's not a good number. But I didn't think they looked that bad overall. I think the Sharks did just kind of a good job killing off. I didn't think the power play was terrible. You're saying no, you didn't think they looked good at all.
I guess I might be in a wraparound way saying that the Sharks' penalty kill actually did look pretty good, and they have a honestly good penalty kill. I think at a certain point they were 2nd or 3rd in the league, just behind Boston, which for a tanking bad team is that's a great stat to have. That's a great thing you can rest your hat on, is having a great penalty kill. So that might be what I'm confusing myself with, is a great penalty kill, kind of shutting down the Lightning power play. But again, I'm not putting too much stock into this game at all. I think it was a game where they weren't putting 100% effort in. It's not a divisional opponent. They're not trying to crunch points and trying to pass the Sharks in the standings. It's just kind of let this one get away from us. We got the point, especially the overtime period as well. Overtime, from when 3-on-3 was first introduced, it still is very entertaining for sure, but at this point it's a line change competition. It's a possession competition. If the Sharks had the puck for 2 minutes. I mean, it wasn't an extended overtime, but they had the puck for 98% of that overtime period. It was bound to happen. So I don't know. I don't put a whole lot of stock into this loss. It's unfortunate. Great we get the point, but Do you guys think that goal was offside? I of course with my
Sharks overtime goal?
no
The Lightning Stamkos
the
goal.
one
goal
that's
for-
taken
for
back
the-
from Stamkos.
Do you think that one should have been counted as offside? Because I'm wearing my Lightning blue tinted glasses, of course. I think objectively, third party, non biased, I think that should have been a good goal. I think he had possession entering the zone. I think that should have been upheld.
So they've been pretty consistent with what they deem as possession, and although it looked like it was a tip up to his skate, they don't really necessarily consider like a touch pass to yourself actually having possession as opposed to being continuously on your stick. The one thing I will say is I do appreciate that they have been pretty consistent with the way that this call goes. It's not like you get one set of refs that call it one way, another that call it another. The refs have been, the linesmen specifically, have been letting these plays continue and then allowing Toronto to make the decision. And the decision makers in Toronto, it seems like it's significantly more consistent than I remember in the past. Anytime the call is going to Toronto, oh, the Lightning are going to get screwed one way or another. But this, we've had quite a few go our way where, I was even saying I was surprised that it wasn't an offsides earlier in this season for a couple of them.
Yeah, I think this might be the second time they've had a scenario like this where, of course, we're in my blue tinted glasses. I think it should have been a good goal, but I definitely see where the issue lies.
At the end of the day, I think it was the right call, and he was technically offsides. But let me put it to you like this: beer league, that's a goal. That's a goal. I mean, it wasn't really
All day.
Yeah, exactly. So it's technically the right call, and it was frustrating, but come on, guys, let's give us a little bit of leeway there. But the Lightning do get a point, which is big there. I want to ask you guys about this though. What do you think about the penalty kill? Because I thought that was a major issue for the Lightning. They go 1 for 3 on the penalty kill, and both of the goals that the Sharks scored on their power play came within about 4 seconds each within the power play starting. I mean, it was seconds before they got a quick shot off and put the one at the back of the net. The first one came from Erik Karlsson early in the game, just a quick shot off the blue line. And then the second one was off a face-off win. Puck started to go to the net. And I forget exactly who scored the goal, but was wide open on the right side on a quick cross-crease pass. And it's 2 really quick goals. So what do you guys think about those penalty killing moments for the Lightning?
Well, with the first one with Erik Karlsson, it is one that you cannot let probably the best offensive player on the Sharks be their defenseman, and Erik Karlsson. He took a couple of strides in before taking that shot from nobody jumped up to challenge him. The whole play was over in, like you said, like 4 seconds, maybe not even 4 seconds. And that one, there obviously was a miscommunication in terms of the Lightning players as to who is going to jump up to the point if it went to that spot, and no one covered, and just ended up being a clean goal on Elliott. The second one, though, the Timo Meier goal that went to the other side, that was a kind of a weird play because it was a scramble to get to a loose puck, right? It was kind of bouncing around, and then a Sharks player grabbed it. Let's see, it was Barbanov grabbed it and sent it across crease. That one, it's a little bit more difficult because if the puck bounces half an inch to the left or to the right, it changes completely the trajectory that it's going to take, and maybe it's an easy clear. I think that was just puck luck again. That's just an unfortunate scenario because you can't pull guys out of that area to cover somebody that doesn't have the puck when the puck is loose right then.
And specifically for me, I'm only going to worry about one special teams area for this game, so I'm not gonna criticize the penalty
Power
kill.
play is your main concern, right?
So long as there's no shorthanded goals, Matt's
no
happy.
Shorthanded goals in this one.
And I mean, you could say too that for this, while the Lightning did do better overall on the faceoff percentage, if that's a clean win on either of them, you don't even have to worry about the play. You get the clean out. So if anything, you could say that it was a lack of absolute domination in the faceoff circle that led to those goals potentially.
Well, you know where they did dominate in the faceoff circle, Joe? in the Colorado Avalanche game. The Lightning had a huge bounce back game as they defeat the Colorado Avalanche 5-0. The first shutout for Andrei Vasilevsky on the season. And I mentioned the faceoff percentage. The Lightning, 69% in the faceoff circle. They were fantastic. And in fact, they were so good that I saw this stat after the game and I had sent it in our group chat. And of course, now as I go to pull it up, my phone resets and I've got to go find it again. But the Lightning they were one of the worst in the leagues when it comes to the face-off percentage. They've been one of the best recently. Here's the stat from Chris Kren. The Bolts ranked 25th in the NHL in face-off win percentage through the first month of the season at 46.7%. Since January 1st, the Lightning lead the NHL in faceoff win percentage at 56.5% among all players with 200 plus faceoffs since January 1st. Steven Stamkos ranks second in the NHL, winning 62.1% of his draw. So basically all that to say, the Lightning have been really good about their faceoff in recent games in recent weeks here, and it paid off huge for them in this one as they take down the Colorado Avalanche in a big way, 5-0 as the final score.
I wonder if they just regarding the faceoff stat real quick, and then I'll jump into the Colorado game. But I wonder if they maybe knew how much of an issue it was and hired a specialist, because I know the Blues did the exact same thing in their 2019 Stanley Cup year. Faceoffs were a huge issue for him, especially with some great centers that they have on the team, like Ryan O'Reilly. He was underperforming, and I forget who exactly they hired. I don't even think he was former NHL or something, but he was a faceoff specialist, and they became one of the best drawing teams in the entire league. It changed Ryan O'Reilly's season around. So I wonder if the Lightning possibly did something like that, just brought a third party in that helped them. I don't know, because we've got some great drawmen on this team. Like, even, going down to the bottom line with Belmar, he is excellent in the dot. So I don't know if maybe they're just in a funk, or if they had somebody to come in and show them some new tips and tricks. I'm not sure what it is, but they definitely have impressed over the last 3 months or so.
And in a puck possession league like the NHL is, it's so important to be able to maintain possession of it, especially, like you said, on the penalty kill or power play for that matter. And Stamkos historically has been amazing in the dots. To start off the season like he did is definitely atypical. Think about how often you see Stamkos go out for the penalty kill. He takes the draw and skates immediately to the bench, and you get somebody else out on the ice to finish up the rest. The change has been pretty dramatic, and I mean, I don't know if I've ever recalled seeing such a dominant statistic for a single game as 69-31.
Yeah, that's a pretty big swing in the faceoff circle, and it was a huge help for them because there were a couple times where right off the draw, the Lightning were something very quickly and start scoring goals. They were great in this game. Corey Perry had a goal. I want to talk about Brandon Hagel, though. He had 2 goals in this game. He was fantastic. And I'm sorry, but I've got to toot my own horn here. Guys, I told you at the beginning of the season, Hagel was scoring 30 goals. He is well on his way to 30. He's currently, after this game, he was at 21 goals. The guy's just on fire. He's playing so well right now. And also, I'm going to put this out there. Hagel has the best goal celebrations out of anybody in the league. Every time he scores a huge goal, I mean, he's just got fantastic celebrations, and I absolutely love it. Brandon Hagel is quickly becoming one of my favorite players. And the best part is he's on a $1.5 million contract for the next season too, and then he's a restricted free agent. So just round of applause to JBB for picking up that trade.
Talk about how he's also leading the league in takeaways.
That's right. I mean, he's doing an unbelievable job. He's had a huge turnaround since I mean, he wasn't even that bad when the Lightning first traded for him and he came over, but I think the expectations were so high for him. People were a little worried about it. He's been fantastic. He was great in this game too.
Just real quick, I was listening to Michigan on one of his shows, and he was actually bringing up the Selke Award and the possibility of both Pointer and Hagel being candidates. And with the way that Hagel's playing right now, it's crazy to talk about, like you said, a guy making 1.5 even being considered.
And it's not like he's in a contract year.
And you've heard me talk about the Braden Point for Selke. You know how I like to beat that drum, but I would say Brandon Hagel would probably deserve it more, but the thing is, wingers they never win the Selke. I think Mark Stone won it, and he was the first winger to win it in like 15 years, something crazy like that. So I won't even give that idea a thought. So I'd put Steven Stamkos ahead of it because that's, for whatever reason, that's the way the voting works. They only care about centers.
Draws are important. Draws are really,
They are
really
important, but if you are so far and above and excelling, and I'm not saying he is far and away the best defensive two-way forward in the game, but having that wide of a margin on just the amount of takeaways, that's just the one stat. He is always very, very defensively sound. He's just like Braden Point, getting on the rush on the back check as well. He could make a strong case. I just think it's unfortunate. He'll probably not get the recognition he deserves.
I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a post on Facebook. Somebody made a bet with their Colorado friend that the Lightning beat the Avalanche, and the bet was the loser was going to have to go to the next Lightning versus Colorado game and wear the opposing jersey and then come up with a sign or something like that. I thought that was great, and I just wanted to say to the Colorado fan that's got to wear some Lightning gear now, if you need some Lightning merch, I know where you can go. Just head over to shop.rblrsports.com and you can check out some of our awesome Lightning merch that we got over there for you guys. And you can use code BOLTS for 10% off your order as well. It's not just Lightning stuff, though. We got some awesome Rays, Buck, Rowdies theme merch. So be sure to go over to shop.rblrsports.com and go check that out as well. It'll be linked down in the description. Go check it out. Awesome merch. Highly recommended. And use code BOLTS for 10% off your order.
So we talked about this before on just the audio version of the podcast, but now since we're doing video, I think it should be brought up again that Matt and I don't usually know when Jake's going to work in a promo, and he tries to do it, as slick as possible, and it always catches us off guard. Bravo. That was beautiful.
Might be your magnum opus here, Jake. That might be the best one yet.
Yes, I was proud of myself for that one. And I'm not going to lie, that one just popped into my head in the middle of the show. It like a light bulb went on. I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing for this week's.
Nicely done.
They've got to be candid like that, man. That's how that's just the crispest, the best of the best when they're candid like that.
Of looking good as we move on to this next game in the Dallas Stars. You know who else looked really good? That's Anthony Cirelli. He had a fantastic game against the Dallas Stars as the Lightning win this one. The final score of 3-1, but it was a really close game throughout. And the Lightning only take the lead with 46 seconds left in the game as Anthony Cirelli is the one who puts the Lightning ahead. Victor Hedman, he picks up the assist and picks up career number 500 on his assist. So a shout out to Victor Hedman hitting that major milestone for him. Hagel eventually gets the empty net goal. He actually scored that goal with 0.6 seconds left. It almost didn't count, but it did go in before the buzzer sounded. So he picks up number 22 on the season. But guys, a very close game throughout, a game that I would even say it felt like the Stars kind of controlled, and you felt like they might come away with this one. But those last 7 minutes in that third period, the Lightning dominated, really controlled the pace. But they end up coming away with a goal late in the third period and getting another huge 2 points on the road where they have struggled.
I wouldn't have been upset. We'll get into our stars of the week later, but as a spoiler, Vasy did not get one. I would not have been upset if we did, because he obviously got his first shutout of the season in the previous game versus the Avs, but in this game he kept the Bolts in it because they kind of got to a slow start. They really struggled to gain any sort of momentum off of a really dominant team, and Vasy came up with. There's a few saves where I stood up and was like yelling at the TV, especially one where there's a rebound that came off to the side and he somehow slid over. It was just absolutely
reflexes.
Oh yeah, and the big cat was on fire that night. It was great to watch him.
He had 2 breakaway saves, if I'm not mistaken. There's one on Gurianov and one on somebody else, but 2 breakaway saves. That's great in a vacuum. But he was phenomenal all game. And then unfortunately, the one that beat him was a 2-on-1 great shot from Jamie Benn. Nobody's stopping that. But throughout the rest of the game, yeah, Vasilevsky. Throughout the back half of this week, he was phenomenal, allowing in just these last 2 games one goal over 120 minutes. That's pretty good. But I thought the entire team played very well in this Dallas game. It's going to be hard to top that Colorado performance where they were very dominant. But Dallas had pretty much every answer for everything the Lightning wanted to do. They're a team that I underrate a little bit. They are true cup contenders. They play really good hockey. Good thing we didn't meet up with this team in 2020. Dallas was still, a growing Stanley Cup contender, but I would not want to play them again. They played a really, really great game of hockey, but the Lightning, they were just knocking on the door each and every time. Dallas was just shutting everything down until they could finally get that little breakthrough they need. Just create enough chaos to where their system falls apart. That's what the end goal was just a little bit of chaos going for the Bolts way. And scoring with 43 seconds left was Anthony Cirelli. He was on fire, not only this game, but in the Colorado game as well. He's been fantastic this week. I guess I'll save my rambling on that one.
The big difference here was, I think, the special teams as well. The Lightning only got 40 seconds worth of a power play before.
Very, very short.
Before it was Hedman that ended up having to take a penalty in order to prevent another odd man rush or breakaway. That was the only power play opportunity they got all game. The Stars were really, really disciplined, and the Lightning, they took 4 penalties in the game, including that one. It made for a very strong defensive 5-on-5 game for the whole thing. And I kind of like seeing teams play like this. I like the goaltender battles. I like seeing how teams can shut each other down, especially when you know how electric the Lightning can be. To see another team play defensively minded and the Lightning have to really work for it. And obviously they turned it back on, like you're saying, late in the third, and to get one with, what did you say, 40, 43, 44 seconds left?
43 seconds left, right around there.
How euphoric is that after holding your breath all game long to see the guys top it off to get 2 in regulation?
Joe, you nailed it. I think saying it was a defensive game, and it was a fun one to watch. People always ask, would you rather a big offensive blowout or a big defensive battle? I like both. I like a mix of both. I think both are fun in their own ways. This was a great defensive battle in this game. And shout out to Scott Wedgwood, who was really good in this game for the Stars. He made a couple of big saves. And a former Lightning goaltender, by the way, I might add as well. So just a fun game overall. It was a lot of good defensive work by both teams. I called out the penalty kill earlier. They were really good in this game. As you mentioned, Joe, the Lightning took 4 penalties. They go 4 for 4 tonight on the kill. They were very, very good. Good defensive work. Vasy was fantastic. He definitely deserves a lot of praise this week. I think the only reason he didn't make on our 3 stars list is just because he had that rough game against Florida. And to be fair, everybody did. Nobody really helped him out in that game against Florida. But Vasy was excellent, and he gets a shout out, as we mentioned earlier, too. So good for him. Good for the Lightning to get a big road win and pick up another 2 points. This week, they caught up a lot to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who were ahead in games played. The Lightning are still behind in games played. We'll get to that more in a minute, but they're catching up to the Maple Leafs in the standings. So these 2 points were very important for the Lightning when it comes to that. But good game for the Bolts. They pick up the 2 points. And now I think it's time to talk about the 3 stars. We've been kind of teasing a little bit as Vasilevsky did not make the list, but we'll start with our number 3 star. And of course, that is going to go to none other than Alex Killorn, Mr. Harvin Man himself. Killorn, he had a really great week. He had 5 assists total. He didn't score any goals, but he was really good defensively. He was a +2 over the last 4 games. As I mentioned, picks up those 5 assists, was really good with Anthony Cirelli and creating some opportunities for him. So Killorn picks up our 3rd star of the week.
Even calling the game against Florida a wash, he was even with his plus minus. If we're not going to look at that game, he was even though. So he played. It's surprising, I know. That's saying a lot when you lose 7-1. And one of the real great goals assists that he had was just flicking the puck up to allow Cirelli to skate into it, which ended up being a great effort play to hook up Hagel. And I know we'll talk more about that, but that was a smart play by Killorn, and he had a lot of smart plays all week. He was a big body and played defensively out. His play was outstanding.
And I think one of Killorn's biggest X factors, if you will, is he has great chemistry with everybody. He is the Swiss Army knife on this team, and I think he gets a little underrated by this fandom a little bit. Although he doesn't get enough credit as he should. I'm a huge Alex Killorn fan. I have been since day one. But it seems like no matter who he's playing with, he can find a way to elevate his line mates and elevate himself to be able to play with these line mates. Or if he's playing down, he can be a heavy body, a checker. And just develop great immediate chemistry no matter who he's playing with. You can play him anywhere between your first to fourth line. Of course, you don't want him playing bottom six, but he can play anywhere. And he really had great connection with both Cirelli and Hagel this week, especially in that Colorado game and also the Dallas game as well. I thought he played really well, and he came up with some really key assists the whole way through. So I mean, it's about time Killorn gets a little bit more credit.
I don't think we've put him on the list so far this season.
He's got one because I was begging to put him on for one.
That's right. That's right. He did make it the 1 week. He did make it the 1 week, but he gets another one here, and it's very well deserved.
This time I didn't have to beg.
He played great. A lot of credit to him. And Matt, you're right. I mean, how many years have we heard about now where people have said, oh, maybe Killorn's the piece we move at the trade deadline. He's got a lot of cap space. We can move him. Every year he gets brought up, but he's been a super consistent player for the Lightning. He's been one of the top guys, and he had a great week this week. So a well-deserved third star for Alex Killorn. We talked about he had some chemistry with Hagel and Cirelli. Well, our number 2 star of the week is Brandon Hagel. Brandon Hagel was fantastic in this one. He scored a couple of goals, had some good assists as well. Specifically, he had 3 goals, 2 assists for a total of 5 points. But Brandon Hagel, as I talked about earlier, has been amazing all season long. He's at 22 goals right now. It's just he seems like a different guy since we saw last year in the postseason. I can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah, Jake, I think you've beat that drum to death about how much you love Brandon Hagel. But hey, I'm all for it, bro. I'm just upset that you drafted him in fantasy, but I'll let that slide.
Hey, you know what? I'm changing my prediction. Instead of 30 goals, I'm bumping it up to 35 at the least now. And hey, we might even hit 40 at this rate.
I want to say I love the picture that we have for him with his tongue out, looking focused. This draw's about to happen, and he's gonna go mess someone's day up. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, he's been just terrific. I know I have beat this drum to death. It's what seems like every week. It seems like he is a star every week, but
as you should.
We're not putting him up here for no reason. I mean, I'm gonna sound like such a hypocrite saying this, but he is my new Nick Paul. He might be the best player in the NHL. No, I mean he's captain consistent. He is Braden Point Jr., if you will, just a little more refined in some areas. I'm running out of words. I fold.
You said it, Braden Point Jr., right? He looks like Braden Point. He kind of plays like Braden Point as well with some of the speed that he shows out. Love Hagel. I love him a lot. I think he's playing really well. Well-deserved second star of the week. No question about it. Let's go to our number 1 star of the week, though. And it's another guy that we've already been talking about. And on that same line, it's Anthony Cirelli. Anthony Cirelli picks up the number 1 star of the week here from the RBLR crew. Cirelli, another 5 points for him as well. He had 2 goals, 3 assists. But just his overall play, and for a guy who had a late start to the season because of an injury, he has really got into that mid-season form, if you will. He made so many great defensive plays. He set up a lot of good passing plays. He scored some great goals. I mean, what was there not to like about Anthony Cirelli's game this week? He was fantastic and should absolutely be the consensus number 1 star, I think, this week.
So continuing that play from when we were talking about Killorn, Killorn flips the puck out of the zone, and going back, it's 1-on-2. Anthony Cirelli beats 2 defensemen to this puck just around the face-off dot in the offensive zone, flying in, and then he takes a quick look and passes it right to the low slot to Brandon Hagel, who nobody was near because Cirelli pulled both defenders to him. Hagel one-times it into the back of the net, and that was an 100% an effort play facilitated by Tony Cirelli, skating as hard as he can to beat two guys in order to generate the scoring opportunity. And that's what you get out of Cirelli. You don't get a guy that's got a ton of flash. You're not going to see him necessarily pull off some sort of deke that blows your mind. What you're going to see him do is dig in those corners harder than anybody else, skate down the ice faster and harder than anybody else. And he's going to come up with some gritty plays that make you proud.
And I was on a delay for the Colorado game. I was probably like 30 seconds behind what you guys were, and I just remember seeing the chat light up with both Jake and Joe saying, "Oh my God, what a play by Cirelli!" And I'm like, "Well, great, now it's spoiled, but I can't wait to see what happens." But man, that was just an all-out effort play. So good for you, Joe, bringing that up. It was
when you know it's coming and you still get excited from it. Yeah, it's a good play.
Oh yeah. Absolutely, but really, I kind of want to focus more on the Dallas games because his first goal, beautiful breakaway pass he got from the blue line in and just dangled Scott Wedgwood out. But the game-winning goal, the one with 43 point whatever seconds left, was that not the most Tony Cirelli goal ever? I mean, just being not only in front of the net but darn near in the net with your stick on the ice, ready for a pass. Against Dallas, I think he's got to have one of the highest goals per game against Dallas out of anybody on this team. I feel like he always scores against Dallas. He scored in his first NHL game against Dallas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you are right. Yes, I remember that he did score in his first game. It was against the Dallas Stars.
For a team that you don't see too often, that's pretty impressive.
I think didn't Yanni Gourde score an early goal in his career against the Stars as well, if I'm not mistaken? I know Gourde might have had one.
He had big goals. I don't think he scored he may have scored in his first game. There's one that I remember distinctly falling in love with Yanni Gourde. I think this is when he still wore 65. It was an overtime winner against the Chicago Blackhawks, I think. And from that moment on, I fell in love with Gourde. But we're talking about Tony Cirelli here, and him being.
You're right. My bad. We're talking about Cirelli. You're right.
We'll talk about Gourde when we play the Kraken again next year, or in the offseason when we trade for him,
or maybe in the playoffs. Who knows?
Ooh, finals matchup. Oh, I would hate to make Yanni lose against us.
That would be tough.
Enough of that. Yeah, it was the worst kept secret that he had, that Tony Cirelli was owning this first star this week. Everybody kind of knew it, and I'm extremely happy about this one specifically. I love Hagel, I love Killorn, but Anthony Cirelli, again, he owns every Bolts fan's heart, but he was kind of falling out of grace a little bit with some of the at least the Facebook crowd. I don't know if you guys have seen people. I know. Doesn't need words, but
hey, we love you guys over there on Facebook, but there's some weird posts going on over there sometimes.
Just relax a little bit every now and then, Facebook moms. But regardless, I've seen a lot of not hate, but people are saying, man, who is this 71? Is not, I don't recognize who he is. He needs to step it up. He's not playing well. And every time I see one of those, and trust me, there's been a lot recently, I try to shut that down, because I think even if he's not putting up points or goals, anything like that, I think he's still, we all know this, extremely defensively sound. He doesn't have to be scoring to be an effective player. Meanwhile, this week he is scoring. He's getting primary assists. He's getting game-winning goals, game-opening goals, if you will, as well, and still just managing to be such an effective player if you take all of those away. Like Joe was saying, he's not, he doesn't have the best hands in the league. He's not the fastest skater, but boy, you better expect him to outwork you at every aspect. That he doesn't have to be the most skilled player, but you have to be the most persistent, the most consistent, the most honey badger-esque, if you will. And man, he sure is.
And of all of the guys that we mentioned for our 3 stars, he's the only one that actually was positive for every single game. The defensive nature of Cirelli isn't something that should be understated, because he's a guy, when you see Cooper change lines up and he does it quite often. He'll put Cirelli with Killorn and Hagel. And when he does that, that line is going to absolutely shut down anyone. Doesn't matter if McKinnon's on the ice or not. They're shutting guys down, and they might not put points up, but they're gonna neutralize the other team. And you know what? They do score as well when you have that specific lineup set up, and that is because of the dogged tenacity of Cirelli. You got Killorn, who's a big physical body, and obviously Hagel, who can help turn over the puck. But it all starts when you got that defensive center that's in the middle, and that's I guess that goes back to the Selke conversation again, because that's where it all starts, is win your face-off draws and then shut the other team down if you don't.
My not so hot pick. I'm sorry, Jake. Just to interject real quick, my not so hot take from it might be a couple years ago. I think this might predate my time here, but Anthony Cirelli, he is winning a Selke Trophy in the next 5 seasons. And you know what? Let's say that was 2 years ago. In the next 3 seasons, he's winning a Selke Trophy. And I know we had that conversation a little bit earlier. If anybody deserves it on this team, man, it'd be Cirelli.
He's been top 5 2 years. I think he was top 5 last year. He was top 20 the year before that, then top 4 and top 11 in Selke voting. So he's been up there a couple of times. And maybe he's a guy you want to be talking about for representation, at least for the Lightning. He's really good.
Looking at his stats, he only has the 29 games played, obviously, because he had the off-season shoulder surgery. But for the 29 games played, he has 16 points, which means he's over half a point per game average, and he's a plus 10. That's a pretty good stat to be a plus 10 on your team.
It's fantastic. And he's been unbelievable, and hopefully it continues, and he continues to make a case for himself at being the Selke voting. So just to recap there for everybody, our 3 stars of the week are Alex Killorn, Brandon Hagel, and then Anthony Cirelli is the number 1 star. And we'd love to hear from you guys as well. Don't forget to follow us at RBLR Sports. Get in the conversation so you don't miss out on future podcasts as well. And also, we talk about all the time. We chat on Discord during the games. We have a new Twitter account at RBLR Lightning, which you also can go follow, where we're going to be having a lot more discussions. We're going to be talking there about the games. Go follow that. That's where you can also go check out the 3 stars. We'll be posting that there so you don't miss out on future RBLR content, and you can get involved in the conversation. So go check out that Twitter account and get involved in the conversation. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Now, two things I want to bring up, or one thing I should say before we get into what's coming up for this week for the Lightning. Guys, I kind of mentioned this before, but the Lightning were making up a lot of ground earlier this week as they've been behind in games played for basically forever. And the Lightning are now only 2 games behind in games played against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they're only 2 points behind them in the standings. Toronto sitting at 72 points, the Lightning at 70. So I want to ask the question, does it matter where we finish? I know this is a topic that's gotten brought up a couple of times over the last couple of years because the Lightning have shown it doesn't really matter. But I think this year might be a little more important than the others. The Lightning have a considerable different record versus home and away. They are 21-4-2 on home ice at Amalie Arena, and then they are 13-12-0 when they are away from Amalie Arena. That is a big difference, and I feel like home ice advantage could be a breaking point for the Lightning at some point in the playoffs. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this and how you feel about it, and is home ice that important?
Well, if you don't have home ice advantage and you split the away game, that gives you essentially home ice advantage back. So you just said they're basically 50-50. They're a little better than 50-50. It's pretty much a lock. Unless something extreme happens, the Lightning are playing the Toronto Maple Leafs. It would require an act of God to change the way that these numbers are looking, because you got 11 points that Boston is up on Toronto and 12 points that Florida is down on Tampa. So there's no way that it's going to be someone other than the Maple Leafs. So if that's who we're talking about, it is an incredible environment to play a playoff game in Toronto. But again, you split that first game, or the first 2 games away, take it back to Tampa. I don't really like the Maple Leafs' chances if we can get 1 out of 2, and that's the way that they're going right now. I don't think it's going to matter personally.
I think it does. I mean, I don't know. Of course, I might be reading a little bit too much into it. Again, there's nothing the Lightning love to do more than prove me wrong, and they're great at it. And I have a feeling they might be doing it again. But I think, man, right now is the time to strike. Strike while the iron's hot. They're missing Austin Matthews. I mean, right now is a time to make up ground if we can secure home ice advantage. Because especially last year, as much as I hate to admit it, the Maple Leafs building in the playoffs, it was rocking. It was imposing for sure. I felt threatened through my TV screen. They were a rocking crowd for somebody for I don't know. At least at the Scotiabank Arena, they got a little bit of a rep for being very corporate, not very rowdy, kind of like the Islanders, if you will. Where it's just beer bottles being tossed onto the ice. But no, they definitely the Leafs proved me wrong last year. They have a rocking crowd, but at the same on the other side of the coin is what do we just ask the Lightning to do other than not give up shorthanded goals? Just get in. Just get in and
right.
deal with it from there.
At the end of the day, you guys are absolutely right. It doesn't matter. The Lightning have proved it multiple times, but I do think it would be very nice to have that home ice. It never hurts. And just the fact the Lightning have been so good at Amalie Arena, it just makes me feel a little bit better to have home ice. And the Lightning are right there. They can easily take it. They are 2 points behind the Maple Leafs with 2 games in hand. So these next couple of games could be big if you think home ice advantage could be the difference maker. Let's look at what's coming up ahead for the Lightning here as we get set for this next week. We got a West Coast road trip, and so it's going to be a couple more of those late nights. So make sure you got your favorite coffee with you so you can stay up with us watching these games. The Lightning are going to be taking on the Colorado Avalanche in a rematch on Tuesday, which is tomorrow as of this recording. That's a 9 p.m. start time. Colorado 28-19-4. As we just talked about, though, we beat them 5-0 at home at Amalie Arena. So, Colorado will be looking for a little bit of revenge. And Dave Mishkin mentioned on the Power Lunch podcast that Colorado might be getting some of their players back. So they could be getting a little bit healthier. So this may not be the same Colorado team that we saw earlier. The Lightning will be then doing the second half of a back-to-back against the Arizona Coyotes at 9 p.m. start on Wednesday. Coyotes 17-28-8, but as we've said so many times on this podcast, it's an NHL team. Anybody can beat anybody, so you got to be ready for it. And even though on paper this is one of the easier games, it's coming off a back-to-back as well. The last game for the week will be against the Golden Knights. That one at a 10:30 p.m. start time. The Knights 32-18-4. They've had a really good season once again here. That should be a fun game. It always seemed to be a high-scoring affair when the Lightning take on the Knights. So a fun game coming up on Saturday and a late one as well for the Lightning. So, guys, I'll ask you this. Which game are you most looking forward to this week, and what are your expectations for when the Lightning come back after this road trip?
I'd say that the one that I'm probably worried about most is Colorado, because if Cale Makar is healed, healthy, and ready to go, he is such a difference maker, and I don't want to say that.
Bring it, Joe.
I'm all for a great game. I think it's gonna be the highlight game, because you're gonna see a lot more firepower out of the Avs. Cale Makar is a guy that I don't think defensively he's nearly as good as he is offensively. And what just happened to the Avs when they came to Tampa? They got shut out. And bringing a little bit more offense is what they're gonna need. I think maybe the Lightning kicked the Hornets' nest, but that's okay. I think they're also up to the task, but the Avs are going to come out hot. They're going to come out hot and want something. That's going to be a really good one.
They definitely did kick the Hornets' nest, but we got a whole 55-gallon drum of Raid ready for them. So, no, will be. They bring it. They're going to be angry. They're going to want their revenge for sure. Of course, they've got the ultimate trump card on us, but again, this is a fresh, hard loss for them. They're going to want to exact their revenge, especially being at home. They've got the advantage. We all know how hard it is to play in Denver. Just strictly physically how hard it is if you're not acclimated to being in Denver. But that's going to be a tough one. I think that it's going to be very different from what we saw here in Tampa playing the Avs. Another thing too is, of course, don't take the Coyotes lightly. Of course, they're not, you don't have to really watch your back for them or anything like that, but don't take them lightly, because I feel like we may have took the Sharks a little lightly. Don't take the Yotes lightly. And lastly, Vegas, despite them being at the top of the Pacific, they've faltered recently. They've had their fair share of struggles. Jack Eichel isn't playing his greatest. Logan Thompson hasn't been playing his greatest as well. I think, they're an extremely deep team, and they can score from every single area and shut you out all at the same time. But I think right now, I'm of course, expect the worst, hope for the best. But I think the Lightning, this can go either really well or really poorly. So all I'm really asking for is bare minimum 3 of 6 points. I don't think that's too much to ask for on this West Coast trip.
With Jake bringing up that stat before, you said it was 13 and 12 on the road?
Yes, 13 and 12.
It would be nice to start turning that number around. I'd feel a little bit more confident in my assessment that the home advantage in the playoffs wouldn't matter if they could start taking that record around. At any rate, I'm hoping that maybe the three of us can kind of take to Twitter on at least the Colorado game, and on the RBLR Lightning account, we can do our little group chat and talk about the game like we usually do, but bring it to public and allow some other people to chime in as well.
We're gonna have to come up with a hashtag specifically for RBLR Lightning to get the conversation going and have people come in and join us as well. We'd definitely love to talk about it. The game I'm looking most forward to, by the way, is the Vegas game. That's usually a really fun game for the Lightning, as they play a high-scoring affair usually against them. So I'm excited for that game. I think that one could be a fun one. This is going to be a tough road trip just because the Lightning struggle on the road a little bit. Even though Arizona is not as great, that's coming off a back-to-back. This is the first time I believe the Lightning are playing inside the new Arizona arena as well. Well, not the new arena, but their new home, I should say. So interesting to see if we get any thoughts on from the Lightning players about that whole situation. But late night games, that's for sure. Should be a great week. Don't forget, be sure to follow us at RBLR Sports on all the social media so you can check us out and don't miss out on future episodes. And you don't miss out on other podcasts as well. We got the Bucks, the Rays, the Rowdies. Those guys are doing some amazing things over there. So be sure to go check out their podcast as well. Follow us at RBLR. Subscribe and like the video right here on YouTube. We'll see you guys next week. Go Bolts.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.